Welcome back to another Sabbath School lesson, ladies and gentlemen. We are embarking on the Birdcage. So this is, I don't even know why he named it that title, to be honest with you. It's a weird title for a Sabbath School lesson, but the Birdcage, lesson number 3 in the Crucibles with Christ. We're going to get started reading the memory verse. This is taken from 1 Peter number 1 and verse 6. It says, "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials." The key for this lesson, I really think that the author is really trying to point out, is really just one main theme. And it comes from Exodus 17 and verse 7. And really it's just one thing that the Israelites ask. It's a question. Is the Lord among us or not? Exodus 17 says this in verse 7. "He named the place Massa and Meribah because the quarrel of the sons of Israel and because they tested the Lord, saying, 'Is the Lord among us or not?'" So this lesson dives into a couple different categories because the main thing is that Israel is leaving Egypt, and the story is really what happens after Israel leaves Egypt. And what you really start to find is they end up facing hardships that make them question, well, is God really with us or not? Like, what's going on in this thing? So basically, if you just read over Exodus 14, the entire chapter, read over Exodus 15, verse 22 through 27, and also Exodus 17, verse 1 through 7, you pretty much got the entire lesson. So Israel is going from the Red Sea. They come up to the Red Sea, and all of a sudden, of course, the Egyptians are behind them. They're stuck between this wall of the ocean, and God opens up a pathway through the ocean. Later on, as they start, praising God and they're advancing on into the wilderness, they run out of water. They run out of resources. And so basically now they're just thirsty. And then they start to complain, and God they come to this area where there is water, but the water's bitter. And God ends up having Moses throw down a tree in the water, and the water becomes sweet. And they continue journeying, and all of a sudden they come to a place where there's no water. And God ends up telling Moses to hit the rock, and then water comes out of a rock. But the idea here is this, that what you're going to find as a consistent theme is God is often waiting until the Israelites are just in die-hard need before he comes through and does something. And that's one of the big main points that you want to see here. Why does God wait so long to come through for you? And that's really one of the big things that the Israelites wrestle with, because they wonder, is he with us or not? Why is it that you come to this point in which Pharaoh and the Egyptians catch all the way up, and at the last minute, God comes through and opens up the Red Sea? Why is it that I'm starving, I run out of all resources or water, and just when I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to die out here, now, God gives me water? And so the question is, why does he wait so long to come through for you? Maybe you're in a financial situation or whatever else, a relationship, and it seems like God is waiting into the last minute just to come through for you. There's also something else interesting about this lesson, because as Moses and the Israelites come toward the Red Sea, and the Red Sea is closed, they freak out and they're wondering what's going to happen. They're complaining to Moses. And Moses says something interesting here, and I want you to see this. This is in Exodus 14:13. It says, "And Moses said to the people, 'Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever.'" Now, this is very interesting because Moses actually doesn't know what God is even going to do. So why is Moses saying this to the Israelites? And this is posing a huge question, particularly about us and also about Moses. Where in the world did Moses learn that type of faith, in which he trusts in God even when he doesn't understand the details of what God is going to do in his life? And so he's announcing to the Israelites that God is going to come through for you, but I have no idea exactly what God is going to do. That's not normal faith. So the question is simply this: where did Moses learn this type of faith, and how did he learn it? Of course, some people might be like, in the desert, where he stayed for so long, but how specifically did Moses learn this in the desert? And how also can we learn this type of faith in our situation when you don't know the details of what God is going to do in your life, but you still believe that he will do something? Now, here's a profound meditation to kind of bring this picture together. There's a man that he lived in a house with about 6 children. He also had a wife, and this house only had one giant room. Actually, it wasn't giant; it was a pretty small room. So it was a one room house. And the idea is here, they were so crammed in, and they were complaining all the time with each other that they didn't know what to do to have peace with each other. And so they decided to seek out a local rabbi, and the rabbi gave them some advice. The rabbi said, hey, I know that you have some animals. I want you to take your animals and bring them into your house, which they were like, that makes no sense, but we'll follow what the rabbi said. The animals specifically was a cow, a goat, and also some chickens. After about a couple of days, they were just furious, and they were like, the animals were all over the place, and everybody was just screaming all the time. It was a disaster. So he ran back to the rabbi and said, this is a disaster. It's even worse than what I told you. And so the rabbi said, okay, no problem. I want you to take the chickens and put them out the house. And he says, okay. He goes back to his house, and then he waits another day or two, and it's still a disaster. He comes back running to the rabbi, and he's like, Rabbi, this is a complete disaster. This goat over here is just going crazy. It's eating all the food. It's ramming in and destroying the small pieces of furniture that we have. And so the rabbi is like, no problem. Take the goat and put it outside. And so he does that. Then the next day he comes running back and says, ugh, it's like living in a stable with this giant cow everywhere and always saying moo. And so the rabbi comes over and he's like, okay, I understand what you mean. May God bless you. Take specifically the cow out of the house and go back home. Once he does that, several days later, he comes back to the rabbi and he's like, Rabbi, it's amazing. We have peace in our house for the first time. It's so great. I can't believe that you helped us accomplish this. I just want to say thank you. So the man with 6 kids really thought that he needed his situation to change so that he could actually have peace. He thought that he needed his situation to actually change so that he could have peace in his household. And something to think about when you're thinking about this story of Moses is that Moses also was going through the same things that the Israelites were going through. Remember, the Israelites are complaining that they don't have water. But sometimes we just kind of forget this. Well, if the Israelites don't have water, Moses doesn't have water either. He's going also at the same period of time, struggling, starving, or thirsting just like they are. The difference is he has a different attitude than they are. He's in the same situation, but his attitude is different. And that's the idea essentially here that the rabbi tries to do with this guy. He tries to shift his attitude in the situation, even though his situation actually can't change. Changing the attitude when you can't change the situation. But the question I have for you here today is simply this. What is it going to take for you to have peace when the details of your life are negative or unknown? What is it going to take for you to have peace when the details of your life are either negative or unknown? For Moses, it didn't take much. He barely had anything. He was sitting there thirsting with everyone else, but his attitude and mindset was different, and he was at peace in the midst of a storm, quote unquote. So what is it going to take for you to have peace when the details of your life are either negative or unknown? I'm Oswald, and this is Profound Meditations, Sabbath School Summary.